So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 24th, 2024 public hearing and regular council meeting for the Village of Lytton. I'd like to take a moment to remind everyone to please turn off your videos, mute your microphones, and to allow council to begin the proceedings. Just to let you know, we are all being recorded and broadcasted on the Village of Lytton YouTube channel. If anyone is looking for a video recording of this meeting or a past meeting, you can go to the Village YouTube channel and watch it there. Thank you, Your Worship. You may call the meeting to order.
Thank you, CEO Storoshenko. I call this public hearing to order at 7 o'clock. I want to begin by acknowledging that we're meeting here this evening in the village of Lytton, which is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Entlecapan people. This evening, we have all of council sitting at the table, as well as Jim McDonald, and Kathy Walters is joining us tonight in the capacity of Deputy Corporate Officer as per our council procedure bylaw. This public hearing is convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act to allow the public to make representations to council respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaws, Village of Lytton's zoning amendment bylaw, accessory dwellings, number 752, 2024, and zoning amendment bylaws, Schedule C, parking and loading provisions, number 745, 2024. Members of council may ask questions following the presentation by staff. However, the function of council at a public hearing is to listen rather than debate the merits of the proposed bylaws. Everyone present shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaws. No one will be discouraged or prevented from making their views known. However, it is important that remarks be restricted to matters contained in the proposed bylaws. We will start off the public hearing with a presentation by staff on the first bylaw for consideration, which is Village of Lytton zoning amendment bylaw, accessory dwellings, number 752, 2024. As stated in the notice of public hearing, Village of Lytton zoning amendment bylaw, accessory dwelling, number 752, 2024, is proposed to allow accessory dwelling units, whether in the form of a secondary suite located within a single detached dwelling or as a second residence in a separate accessory building, that is a carriage house or a garden suite. The bylaw defines accessory suite, updates the definition of single detached dwelling, and outlines regulations that apply where accessory suites are allowed. I'm going to pass it over to Planner Corey Gain to further explain this bylaw. Welcome,
Good
Corey.
evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Mir. I'll share my screen now. Hopefully this works. There we go. Now, there we go. Wonderful. All right. So, as the mayor said, we're here to do two things this evening. Our first bylaw, 752, is a bylaw that talks about dwelling units in the R1 and R2 zones. Currently, secondary suites are permitted within a principal residence limited to 90 square meters, but we would like to introduce a new option to allow a second dwelling unit to be located in a separate building. So we're going to talk about suites now as accessory suites rather than the traditional secondary suite. So the challenges that we've thought about when considering these amendments is the infrastructure capacity, lot size, road network capacity, the ability to accommodate parking, that sort of thing. So the new option is to add an accessory suite in a separate building. So now we would be allowed to have two buildings with dwelling uses on a single lot. So As the mayor mentioned, the accessory suite definition is added, and it means that a secondary dwelling unit contained either in the single detached dwelling or in an accessory building other than a mobile home. There are a number of different ways that you can configure accessory dwelling units, and so this depicts some of those possibilities. And we're just trying to broaden the ability to accommodate dwellings in the community. Excuse me, I just need to flip my pages here. All right, so one of the principal things that's being done is adding general regulations to section 3.5 as shown on the screen here. There are existing an existing subsection 3.5 that is being deleted and replaced with these provisions. So there are a number, and certainly if anyone has any questions regarding any of these, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions. But because it is quite lengthy, there are 11 different points here. I'm just displaying them on the screen as we're speaking, so we can not go through it in too much detail. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to have a look at the bylaw. Some of the things that are important to note are changes to general regulations 3.7 and 3.8, and the lettering in red indicates this new wording. So accessory buildings, there were already general regulations related to those, and so introducing accessory suites within an accessory building required us to update the general regulations for all accessory buildings to accommodate this new use. So we have updated those sections as well. So, Madam Mayor, that concludes my comments on this bylaw, and I would be happy to answer any questions if Mayor, Council, or the public have any at this time.
Council, do any of you have any questions? Yep. No, thank you very much, Corey. What we're going to do now, excuse me, we're going to open the floor for submissions from the public. If you're present in the parish hall, which I don't think we have anyone here speaking to this, what we'll do is we'll go in order. If you're online, please use the raised hand function found under React at the bottom of your screen. And when speaking, please commence your remarks by clearly stating your name and address. I'm going to call 3 times for speakers. Speakers will be limited to 5 minutes to a maximum of 3 calls to speak, or 15 minutes in total. After all speakers have an opportunity to speak, a person may speak a second time. After all speakers have had an opportunity to speak a second time, a person may speak a third time. Those in attendance and speaking during the public hearing must follow the rules of order as set out in the most recent version of the council procedure bylaw. So for the first time, would anyone like to speak to this bylaw? CEO Storoshenko, are there any hands raised?
No, I don't see anyone.
Okay, thank you. For a second time, would anyone like to speak to this bylaw?
Again, no one.
And for a third time, would anyone like to speak to this bylaw? And CEO Storoshenko, could you report out any correspondence that was received on this bylaw?
There was no correspondence received.
Thank you. So what we'll do then is we'll move on to the second bylaw for consideration, which is the zoning amendment bylaw, Schedule C, parking and loading provisions, number 745, 2024. As stated in the notice of public hearing, zoning amendment bylaw Schedule C, parking and loading provisions, number 745/2024, is proposed to delete Schedule C in its entirety and replace it with the updated Schedule C. Schedule C, parking and loading regulation, is being updated to better reflect community needs. I'm going to pass it back over to Corey Gain to explain this.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. All right, I'll share my screen again. There we go. Okay, so this zoning amendment is 745. As you will recall, we have discussed parking over the course of a number of months even. The findings were presented to council in February, and we've been able to move ahead, receive agency comments, and now we have come to the place where we'd like to receive comments from the public. So some of the key changes here are clarified language for ease of use. We're talking about basing parking numbers on gross floor area rather than on the number of employees or fixtures or other changeable details. So we try to simplify the determination. So streamlined requirements in the commercial zones as well, refined access aisles, reducing it two-way aisle from 7.5 meters to 6.5 meters, and some other updated terminology that reflects bylaws as we see them now. So tables 1 and 2 are the meat and potatoes, if you will. The parking and loading space changes that are most important to note are those for business, government, professional, and other office uses have been combined rather than separating them out into 4 different types. Now we just talk about office use in the singular. Similarly, 3 different retail type of uses have been combined into a single retail sales category. So not as much differentiation, but hopefully simplifying the need to make distinctions as part of the calculation process. So we've also added some common uses since the original bylaw was adopted back in the 90s. Some things have changed. Some of the language that we use to describe those things has changed. So we have updated those as well. We've also increased the threshold for requiring the provision of a loading space, recognizing that this might be appropriate for the community at this point in time. So as well as these things, updated references to other legislation, removal of an exemption for existing buildings as it's really no longer applicable, and clarification about off-street parking and loading requirements and how they might be waived in the C1 zone, where it has been determined that there are other accommodations that will suitably allow people to be accommodated on the street or parking lots, etc. So providing a little bit of flexibility and lenience there. Outdoor and enclosed patios and decks, areas of eating establishments have also been determined to not require additional parking as they had previously. So reduced setback distances between parking spaces and lot lines, that reduction in the width of maneuvering aisles for right angle parking, and some of these changes with respect to language again. Instead of talking about the number of employees, which can fluctuate over time, we want to talk about something that doesn't fluctuate, and that's usually the floor area of the use. So, and as well, obviously, there's been, a lot of changes in the sizes of things. So things are now stated in a per square meters of gross floor area, similar or with a consistent reference to other communities of similar size. So that concludes my comments, Madam Mayor. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Corey. Does any council have any clarifying questions?
I had a really quick
Counselor?
question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I was wondering how the external agencies are determined that we confer with, because it seems like Shaw Cable wouldn't have much interest in our parking, for example. I'm just curious.
Yes, and I appreciate that's the case, but usually what we do is we refer to all of the agencies just in case there are some outlying reason that they have a concern that maybe we're not aware of. In the case of utilities, often it will be that where they have their facilities, for example, power boxes or underlying cables, those kinds of things, they may have some concerns. And so we try to be all-inclusive with our consultation so that everyone has the opportunity. We don't want to miss anything. Sometimes it might not be obvious to us, but it's obvious to the other agency why they want to comment. So just as we ask to hear from the public, we try to be all-inclusive with the agencies as well.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Corey. So what we're going to do now is open the floor for submissions from the public. As we have no one in the hall here to speak to this bylaw, I'm going to ask Lisa, is there anyone online who wishes to speak?
I don't see anyone at the moment, but if they do, if you want to use the raise hand function at the bottom under React. No, no one at the moment.
Okay, I will ask a second time. If there is, if anyone would like to speak. And I'll ask for a third and final time. Would anyone like to speak to this bylaw? Okay,
Still nothing.
So CO Storchenko, could you report on any correspondence received on this bylaw?
There is no correspondence received.
All right, so that concludes our public hearing, but I do need a motion to close the hearing.
So move, Toss.
Thank you, Councillor Toss, seconder. Sure. Councillor Lightfoot, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Well, that's great. Thank you, everyone. And we're going to move right into regular council meetings. All right, so I'm going to call the regular council meeting to order at 7:17. So we need to start by adopting the agenda for this council meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Michelle, seconder.
I'll second that one.
Thank you, McCann, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Now, a motion, please, to adopt the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting that was held on July 15th. So moved. Councillor Lightfoot, seconder.
Toss.
Thank you. All, any errors or omissions? No. All those in favor? Carried. And now a motion, please, to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting that was held on September 20th. I'll second that one. Thank you, Councillor McCann, seconder. I'll second. Thank you. Any errors or omissions? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Sorry, Mayor. Who was that second? Sorry.
That was Councillor Michelle.
Michelle. Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we're going to move right on to item number 6, which is public comment on matters related to the agenda. And I'm going to turn it back over to you, Lisa. I believe we have someone here to speak tonight.
Okay, so members of the public are now invited to comment on matters relating to the agenda. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function on Zoom. You can find that by clicking on React at the bottom of your screen and then click raise hand. When it's your turn, I'll read your name and we'll ask you to unmute yourself if you're online, and you'll get a pop-up on your screen asking you to unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak, and speakers are asked to please state and spell your name, say your address, and the agenda item number that you're speaking to. So is anyone online that wishes to speak? Use the raise hand function. Okay, I don't see anyone online, and I'll call for a second time for anyone online. Anyone wishing to speak? And your worship, there is no one. Is there? You said there's someone at Parish Hall?
Yes, there is. So if you'd like to come up, yeah,
Make sure you use this thing.
Yeah. we have a microphone here for you to use. No, but we need it because it's being recorded.
And make sure it's turned on, please. It's not. turned
And
on.
so you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Let's turn it on for you. There, and so you have 2 minutes. There you go. Yeah, we can share it.
And so there's a chair behind you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay now?
Yeah.
My name is Kyoto Matsumoto. And from Lytton. This is my business card. Let's see now. 810 Main Street.
Just leave it here, yeah.
I have 2 property. And
And what's the agenda item he's speaking to?
this building is my house.
Enzo, point of order, they want to know what agenda item you're speaking
That
to,
is,
the back.
I need.
Backfill?
Backfilling. 7-3 is the agenda item, is the backfilling.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, so you're referring to an agenda item to speak.
Sorry, I got English trouble there.
No problem.
That's okay.
First of all, I need clean up property. And I need make a house retainer wall. Because original one there, nice retainer wall, when city or somebody clean up their damaged wall. So I spoken to the Octo engineer and paid the 5,400. They come and look, and they told me exactly it's retainer wall, which is this one. Then I can make a house. So at the moment, I need a clean up, put retainer wall. Retainer wall was okay, but the people coming my location to clean up damaged retainer wall. So only thing is, engineer told me, you need a concrete big giant block. So I spoke to one of the asphalt concrete company there. I showing them how much cost. So he told me with delivery $15,000. But they could delivery, but somebody I had and find people to put it in. So meantime, last week I spoke to one was guy here. If city damage my property, their responsibility put it in. That's why I understand. But this one is clean up deal is from way back 10 months, used to be Mike. Different people there. He promised, nothing happened there. No. I tried 10 times phone call there, no message, because he quit. So I found one in the 1 month ago, 2 months ago, is city there, it's a new guy. So new guy that won. So I meet him and I spoken twice, 3 times there. So he explained there my location. This is the one house I gotta make one. So he said I gotta check them out there, maybe pay the 50%, pay to do something. But every time he say it's different. Now I got to pay everything. Wait a minute. Who damaged my property? It was a nice retainer wall, now damaged. Only thing they are making a house gonna be is just brick alone, $15,000. And this is a new house. Design here, all concrete block. This one, basement and the first floor on the top of the roof there to walk down. Anyway, estimate how to make the building to brick it here, 300,000 his labor complete everything. But I don't have to get the 3,000 there. But main thing now, I need a clean up, put retainer wall. After retainer wall there, I got somehow to make one this. Even I talked to the government, and one of the Dennis, one of the girl there, he's supposed to be helping them making house. It's last week I meet there, and she said, "You got a commercial property, we can't do it." Wait a minute, commercial property, but I live over there. It's a 5-bedroom house over there. So she said, "Oh, they gotta look again." And she said she bring in the own document. I mean, for the kind of house, original 2x6 house to the insulation inside, outside there, steel door. So I said, that's what they think. They think fireproof. So I mentioned, this is complete. It's a fireproof. To me, those girls there, two girls I'm talking, it's amateur to me in housing. I was about 2021 there. I made a house, 3,000 square feet house, principal. It's 85 farm and 8 farm. I got in one of the Prince George did company there, 2x6 delivery. I set up there. I made the house. I know exactly how to do.
So Kenzo, just so I understand, so you're coming to council today.
Yep.
Because you're concerned about the retaining wall.
Yep.
Is that what it is? That you're bringing that to our attention?
Yeah, that's it, basically. If I got the retainer over there, then I can design again to make house.
Yeah.
But right now, I don't know how much I got space.
Right.
That's the main thing there.
Yeah.
That's what you need one.
That's what we need.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Okay,
much,
perfect.
Kenzo.
My housing is so.
You did great.
Yeah, no, that was good. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's almost what, how many years? He kind of over 50 years. Yeah, I came 96.
That was fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I come in 1967. $40 in my pocket. That's house I made 18 times.
Okay.
Off.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Can the spoke one down. So anything,
Right.
only thing I do now is I focus, make a house. Next, I don't, 5, 6 years, I don't know. So, I am as a witness fire. I standing up
Yeah.
top clearly here.
We're gonna go on with our meeting though right now.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, go there.
Yeah.
I am a witness fire.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So is there anyone else online? There's nobody else to give,
No, I'll give a last
Right,
call
comment.
then.
yes,
to-
thank you.
If anyone would like to make a comment, please use the raise hand function. Is there anybody else that wishes to make a comment? Nope, not seeing anyone, your worship. You-
Okay, we'll
proceed.
move right on into item number 7, which is staff reports. And we have CAO Diane Momberket, 7.1.1, the Public Works Building Contract. Diane?
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Good evening, everyone. This first item for me tonight is our contract to build our Public Works building. So we've been working on this for a few months. This was originally posted on BC Bid back in March, and you may remember we had a council resolution in April to select the provider, but then, with the proviso that it would be coming back to council with the actual contract once it was negotiated and all the pieces were hammered out. So the contractor is Blue Collar Modular, and they were the successful proponent on the original bid. So we've worked with our construction advisor, RCS Construction, to negotiate the kind of standard construction agreement with this contractor. So it's a design build contract. So the contractor will design the building first, and then we'll build it. It's the price at this point is $965,780. That comes in just under our budget of $1 million that we have in our EMCR recovery funding for a public works building. In addition to these costs, there are some things that the village will have to do themselves, such as paving of the parking area and those types of things, which we will do later when we're doing other asphalt in the village already. So it doesn't need to be done right away. It's just, as I noted, it's a standard contract. There is several pages of kind of supplementary conditions that apply to our contract specifically. Excuse me, and I just highlighted a couple of the things that that are in there that I wanted council to be aware of. I mean, one is that we have required a 50% materials and labor bond on behalf of the contractor. So that's to protect the village in the event that something should happen to the company. Some of the standard things, we have a date of substantial completion at this point of December the 13th, 2024. That is dependent on the village doing our work to prep the site and, is subject to change as we go along. We'll be working with the contractor very closely on any decisions that affect that. The payment procedure is intended to be that the contractor will perform the services, will invoice, our construction advisor will verify the invoice and then submit it to us for payment. So we'll have that double check. We won't be trying to assess what's been done. That's for the construction advisor, and we will have a 10% holdback on that. That will be released when the building is complete. So that was all the comments I was going to make on that, but I'm happy to answer any questions on this.
Thank you. We have a recommended motion to approve this contract. So let's put that forward. First, Toss, seconder. Lightfoot. And now, are there any comments or questions? Lightfoot. Sorry, Councillor Lightfoot.
Thank you. I only have one question, and it's the picture, and I'm sure it's a draft copy only, not for construction picture, with the three bays, two big garage doors and a small one and the door on the side. And I can't wrap my head around how it's situated on the lot.
Well, those doors would actually be facing south. So they'll access it from Main Street and drive along along the side of the building and then come around to those bay doors. They're facing south.
So similar to the way the previous one was constructed.
I'm not familiar with the previous one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like that.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Councillor McCann?
Couple of questions. One was, I was kind of curious what kind of heat source is planned for it. It's like a specific question, but I like to think that we're being at least reasonably net zero ready kind of in our construction. So I was curious what the plan was for that.
Propane is the planned heat source for this building.
Okay. And any other net zero attributes to the building? Like, is it going to be just a big old tin building, or is it fireproof?
It is pretty much just a shell. There aren't a lot of specific features built into it. We were really going for functionality within the budget that we had. So I would have to say there weren't any specific net zero things incorporated.
Any other questions, comments? Councillor Toss?
Hi there. Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I have a couple comments and a couple questions. Comments on the mock-up of the building. Again, just wondering if we're able to get in a first aid station by the door and the overhang. Like, so the door that's off the side of the building, I know it's a minor detail, but it would be nice if there was some, just even like a 2-foot overhang so that somebody has a little bit of barrier from the weather as they enter the door. Just spitballing on that. The other question I had was around the amount, and I understand, just so I'm clear, the type of build we're having is open to the costs going over if there's contingencies that come up? Like, I might not have understood.
Well, I mean, they would have to be approved change orders by us. So they would have to be something, some change in the scope that we approve, some, some expansion of something, but it's subject to our approval.
So it's maybe a stupid question, but say there was an atmospheric river and that
Mhm.
delayed and cost the builders, Fort Modular, some money and time. Would that be our liability or would it be on them?
We didn't talk about atmospheric rivers, so I can't answer that. Sorry.
A delay in the build. Let's just call it a delay in the build for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
we didn't talk about that. It's a 3-month project, so they're planning to like start and just
Okay.
go through. Like it's kind of felt like because it's a fairly short
Short window.
project.
Okay.
The idea is to kind of get started and just like kind of get it done. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
That'd be
3
great.
months.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
one more.
Yeah.
I noticed the budget in the, I think the next agenda item has $1 million as stated for the Public Works building. When I add up the numbers, it comes to, it states $1,081,000 and then the GST is 54. When I look at it, we're at a difference of 138,000 from our budget. So do we have that from
Sorry.
another source?
What's that math again? Could you, sorry.
Sorry,
correct me?
I think it says that the total here, $1,081,673.60 plus
Yeah.
GST. So GST is 54. Does that come into the
That
budget?
includes the GST. The 1 million, the price is $965 before taxes.
Oh, I could have sworn I saw it was plus GST. Okay, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Councillor Lightfoot?
Just to clarify, the village gets a return on the GST, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Refundable.
So,
Thank you.
100%. Yep.
So
Yeah. So
all those-
typically when we talk about the cost, we don't include the GST because it's just in and out, right? So
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor? All right, carried. Thank you. All right, yeah, we look forward to that building getting started. 7.2.1 CFO with Diane Lambercat, the monthly recording.
Thanks again, Mayor O'Connor. This is our monthly reporting. We're looking for authorization to send this report into EMCR for reimbursement. This is our $17.6 million recovery grant. And in the month of August, we spent $91,707 that we would be submitting for reimbursement. The previous invoices that we had submitted are 6.5 million, bringing us to a total spent on this grant of $6,607,000. This is the grant, as Councillor Toss just pointed out, that the Public Works building will be coming out of. So it gets included in this, just for reference.
Great, thank you. So we have a two-part, excuse me, recommended motion. Councillor Lightfoot, seconder. Thank you, Councillor McCann. Are there any questions or comments regarding this? All those in favor? Carried. We move on to item number 7.3.1, which is a backfill update. And I believe we have Dawn on the call to speak to this.
Hi all.
There we are.
Can you guys hear me?
You sure can. Go ahead, Dawn.
Yeah, this is just an update and just a report for information for council and the general community. As everyone knows, and this is on the backfill, and is Kyoto still there?
No, he's left.
Oh, okay, I'll give him a call. Just because this actually is directly pertains to him and his property at the view site. So as everyone knows, just to give it background, zones 1 to 6, so starting from just south of the village heading towards Parish Hour, the 6 Ave, were complete in the summer fall of 2023, right? We have been working to prepare and complete the backfill from zone 7, so from 6th Avenue towards the Parish Hall, as well as properties along the Old Trans Canada and properties just outside of the general core, downtown core area around Main and Fraser, which includes Kyoto's properties, right? Due to location restrictions and certain geographical issues, as well as proximity to ancestral remains. These properties are all being done on a case-by-case basis. Just to make folks aware, currently there are 3 properties on Old Trans Canada that are in process of being backfilled. And there are a number of properties, including the View site and some other properties in the area, which I won't name, that we sent engineers over to begin to do a review, because they all have special requirements, such as the retaining walls that Kyoto mentioned. Just to remind folks that there was a decision made that we need all requests for folks that want backfill to have sent an email at least and contact us with the name and address of the property to myself at recoverydirector@lytton.ca. We put a deadline of September 30th this year, and that's just so we know who still wants backfilling. So I please implore, there's only a handful of folks that have not reached out in those 2 areas. And if they haven't yet, I'm hoping they get this and they can reach out right away. Once again, they just need to send us an email with their name and their address, and that would be at recoverydirector@lytton.ca.
Okay, thank you, Don. So let's put the motion forward to receive this report for information.
So moved, Councillor Toss.
Toss, seconder.
I'll second.
Thank you. And are there any questions or comments for Don? Pretty straightforward. Thank you, Don. All those in favor? Carried. All right, our next report is from Director of Development, or not from, the Director of Development report. Diane, you're going to speak to this, sorry.
I am actually the Director of Development, just so you know. That's the because
Sorry.
we don't have an otherwise Director of Development.
You're it. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. There's just a couple of comments on this. This is just an information report relating to some of the bylaws that are appearing a bit later on the agenda. So you may remember at the last meeting we talked about the development approval procedures bylaw and delegation of authority in that for some of the parking related items. So since that time, we've looked at that bylaw again to talk about delegation of authority for some of these setback requirements. And what we're suggesting is that the authority be delegated to the Director of Development, which is the CAO in our case, to approve variances related to setback variances requested by an owner who's looking to build in their original footprint. So the reason why we did this is because we have been encouraging people for a number of months now, for archaeology reasons, to consider rebuilding their house on their original footprints to avoid further ground disturbance. But as we know, some of those older homes didn't abide by our current setback requirements. So what we're suggesting is that if that's the case, that we have that authority delegated mainly to speed up the process for anyone who needs that variance. And we're suggesting that we restrict it to front and rear and exterior lot lines, not interior lot lines. Interior lot lines where 2 lots are up against each other, there's fire considerations, there's there's other things that need to be taken into account, and that we feel that should have the full review. But with the front setback and the rear setback and an exterior lot line, there isn't a lot of impact on others. So that's the reason for the recommendation. So you'll see later on under the bylaw section, we're suggesting rescinding the 3 readings we gave 2 weeks ago and giving 3 readings to just both of these amendments in one. I hope that made some sense.
It did. I got it. All right. So we have a recommended motion to receive this for information.
So moved, Councillor Toss.
Thank you. Seconder. Thank you. I just want to, just so I understand, the delegation of authority speeds it up by not having it have to come back to council every time. Is that how it speeds it up?
That's correct, and not have to go through the referral process. So what we'll do, we will develop our own internal process with a form, where we'll have it documented, what was requested, what was considered, and what was decided. But it would be a lot faster for people.
Thank you, Councillor Lightfoot.
I'm a bit confused and maybe it's just me, but on page 1 of your overview, it says, as with the previously approved by council, authority could be delegated to the director of development in the CAO in Lytton's case to approve deviations from the front, rear, and exterior side setback requirements beyond the 10% currently allowed by the delegated authority. So that's saying you can do more than 10%?
That's correct. There exists in the bylaw that the director of development can approve any setback deviation up to 10%. What this is suggesting is that we increase that for front, rear, and exterior in the case that somebody is rebuilding in their original footprint.
So as it continues on to the second page, it says it's amended as follows, but under 2A, after the third dot, it says by no more than 10% of the bylaw regulation, whether minimum or
That's being
maximum.
deleted.
Is that?
It's not.
And then you continue on, and it adds in number 4, and number 5 is the one that we're talking about right now.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So there would still be the ability for the director of development to approve a variation up to 10% on any development.
Okay.
And then we have this additional approval that applies just to people building back in their original footprint. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
People.
Thank you.
Rebuild it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. So all those in favor? Carried. And we're going to move on to item number 7.5.1, which is the fire rescue, the Village of Lytton Emergency Program update. And we have Jim at the table here, but before we do that, we're going to get a report from him first.
Yeah, so on the fire and rescue side, we all had a grand opening here this afternoon over at our temporary fire hall, which is located at the old Mills site, and was quite well attended. I would say 40 people or maybe more.
About close to 80 or more.
80 more.
Yeah.
Enough that we ran out of hamburgers and hot dogs. So a very well attended thought by our volunteers as well as EDC Wildfire First Nations Structure Protection Unit, as well as others that have donated both funds and their labor to make this thing happen. So I thought
Great.
it was good all around.
It was super. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was great. So we have a motion that council directs staff to engage regional partners in discussions to establish a joint response and recovery to emergency incidents. That is a motion to put forward. Who would like to put that? Councillor Lightfoot and a seconder.
Sure.
And are there any questions regarding that?
I got questions regarding the report that was submitted.
Which is the
That
emergency program. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is next. That's the plan.
So
So
we don't.
we'll,
I have questions for this too, though.
so this, yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So just can you help me understand what exactly we're talking about there? It sounds like we want to sit down and form alliances with other people so that we can all work together in an emergency. And to date, we haven't done any of that. We need to have this motion first. All right. And then what happens after we so move? What goes next? How does that process happen?
Yeah, so what comes next, well, I think to put it into context, we can't do it alone.
Yeah.
We need to have our regional partners involved. And in order to do that, we need to have a
Mutual aid agreement?
right. Thank you. Yeah, we need to have an agreement that brings this regionally into context. So we're not the people that run the show.
Yeah.
We're just one of the many that are part of it. So, for example, regionally, if our disaster includes only one small part of our community, then our regional partners come into us.
Right.
And likewise, if it happens just outside of our community, then those that are well-trained now can go over there and assist. So there's no dollars involved.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of we're just neighbors that are assisting each
Yeah.
other.
Thank you. Great, good.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. Good sense.
Sorry.
Are there any other questions or comments regarding this?
Comment that I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, so all those in favor?
I,
And carried. And then we move on to item 7.5.2, which is the Village of Lytton emergency plan that we have attached to our agenda package here. And we have a motion to put forward, recommended motion, Councillor Lightfoot, a seconder, Cross. And so are there any comments, questions for Jim regarding this emergency plan? Councillor Lightfoot. Oops.
I just think it's an excellent start. But it's quite obvious that there's a lot of details and a lot of people that need to work on it to keep it viable. But no, it's a document that I would need a hard copy to read, to study, because there's a lot of, there's a few really good tidbits on priorities on, keep your people safe, keep your community safe or whatever. But no, excellent work. But as I said, a good start. I think you'd agree.
Right, so I'm gonna call the plan it's an ongoing thing. It has to change depending on the climate,
it's organic, right?
right? It's, so I think it's important that part of this, that the plan isn't set in stone.
Yeah.
We allow things that are policy set in stone, but all other things we can adjust by staff. So I think that's what I was trying to get at. It's kind of that living document.
Living document.
Yeah, and it has to change.
Yeah.
So, as we all know, we've had fires degrade hillside stabilities. All of a sudden, our threat has changed. So we need to be, I think as staff, we need to be able to change that then. Right, without having to go to council for every little thing.
Yeah.
So that's what, and I understand it's an exhaustive document, 100 or more
Yeah.
pages.
It's necessary.
I apologize for that. Some of that is fluff.
Yeah.
Some of that really has to do with government oversight, but a lot of it has to do with ourselves.
Sure.
So if you see something change, you need to let the people in the emergency program know, and then we'll change the plan.
Councillor McCann.
Yeah. So there's a couple little things that jump out at me and I get confused, and this one confused me. So on page 48, there's a section 2.1 talks about plan activation and termination. And it talks about this stuff that made sense. And then it says it should be noted that activation of the plan does not necessarily require the activation of an EOC. That makes sense. Then it says Conversely, the activation of an EOC does not require the activation of the plan. For some reason, that got me really confused. I was like, what? How does that work? I don't get it. So can anybody just paraphrase that for me so I get it? Because I'm confused by, if you do it, the activation of a plan. So the activation of emergency plan doesn't necessarily mean you have to have an emergency operations center. However, conversely or oppositely, the activation of an emergency operations center does not require the activation of the plan. So why would you activate an emergency operations center if you didn't have a plan? I'm thinking, why would you even do that?
Okay, so to answer that, so the Emergency Operations Center is something that's a formal activation,
Yeah. Okay.
right? And we can go ahead and activate that center in the eyes of emergency management and climate. Yeah, those guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. That will allow us to collect money to have that activated.
Oh, I
Okay.
forget about money.
Yeah, there's money involved.
Silly.
Yeah, yeah,
And if I may, I think also with the EOC comes a lot of paperwork. So some people are reluctant to open an EOC if it could be dealt with at the plan and
Right.
internally safely, I think.
right.
Yeah.
So the paperwork side of things, that's part of activating the EOC. And knowing that when we let emergency management and climate readiness, sorry, they've changed names so often. That we've now, we've moved to another stage that allows us now to apply for funding. Which doesn't mean we're doing anything
Yeah,
on the ground, but we are prepared.
I get you.
Okay, did you have another question?
I did. Yeah. There was reference to the Nisga'a Nation, and I wondered why there was reference to the Nisga'a Nation on page 126.
Okay, so that's got more to do with the Emergency Disaster and Management Act, talking about Indigenous governing bodies, and the Nisga'a Nation has another.
They have their own agreement, I'm guessing. That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
so-
Okay.
Again, nothing to do with our plan.
Yeah.
But we all fall under the same program, so we need to mention that. I think that I probably put that in the, and
Probably you did.
if I did not,
I think so. Mostly as I read.
okay.
Yeah, thank you. I knew there was probably a reason. I just thought
Yeah.
check what it was. Great. That was my two questions. Thanks.
Good. So are there any other comments?
Just
and questions?
how much work went into that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
A little bit,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think so. I think so. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, so I think to be clear, this type of plan is required by the law. We have to have this.
Right.
There's no one gonna hold our feet over the fire if we don't have, but it is required.
It's in legislation.
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, I guess the overall story is that this is the plan and it's in entirety, but we need to be able to change it.
Yeah.
Annually,
Needed. Yeah.
without coming to you and saying, can I change so-and-so phone number?
Right, yeah, yeah.
Right?
Staff.
And I blacked out phone numbers, by the way. You probably saw that.
Yeah.
That was the other question I had was regarding that. Was that responsibility falls on the CAO probably to make sure that every year this document gets updated and however they decide to do that? Does it need to come to council every year or does it just stay in the staff?
It should just stay in staff.
Yeah.
And I think, the CAO will now support whatever emergency program coordinator that person has put in,
Appointed, yeah.
right?
Okay, thank you.
Mayor
If there's no-
O'Connor,
Yes.
could I just add one thing? I just wanted to share with council that just for your information, speaking of kind of working with our partners and other things like that, we have already heard from our colleagues at the TNRD who had seen that the emergency plan was on the agenda and are very interested in meeting with us now that we're to this point. They want to meet with us and, you know, kind of collaborate and understand what, you know, who's doing what and all that kind of thing. So already sort of immediately a reach out, which was really great to hear.
Great, thanks for that. Yeah. All right, so if there's no other comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thanks so much, Jim. As Jen said, or as Councillor Toss said, lots of work went into that. Much appreciated. All right, we'll move on to item number 8, bylaws, 8.1.1. Bylaws for readings, and we have the Village of Lytton Development Approval Procedures Amendment Bylaw, variance delegation. And we have a 2-part recommended motion.
I'll make
And it's around what was presented earlier, rescinding
the previous.
first, second, third, and resubmitting it. So council, moved by Councillor Michelle, seconder.
I'll second.
Thank you. Now, are there any comments or questions regarding this? All those in favor? Carried. And we move on to item 8.1.2, which is the zoning amendment bylaw, accessory dwellings. And this is to give it 3rd reading. So we have a recommended motion.
Also move that one.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Lightfoot. Are there any questions regarding this? All those in favor? Carried. Moving right on to 8.1.3, the zoning amendment bylaw Schedule C, parking and loading. And again, we had the presentation and public hearing earlier. And this is to give 3rd reading. Motion, please. Councillor Lightfoot, seconder. Thank you. And are there any comments or questions regarding this?
I'm gonna just comment because I will be,
Toss, yeah.
yes, sorry, thank you. I will be speaking against it and voting against it. And I just wanted to let council and the public know that I'm doing so on the basis that I still believe it's overreach. I don't believe we need off-street parking. I think that loading zones are unnecessary in the town. And I think work could be done to further simplify it. So just making my thoughts clear. Thank you.
So no other comments. All those in favor? And opposed? Carried. Thank you. And we move on to bylaws for adoption. And we have the permissive tax exemption bylaw. And we're looking to adopt it. We need a motion.
So,
Councillor Toss, seconder. Councillor Lightfoot. Now, any comments or questions regarding this? All those in favor? Carried. And we move to verbal reports. All right. Oh yeah, somewhere is my report. Done it again, I lost it. Oh, we're gonna have to go.
yeah, right. Enzo's reading it right
I hope you didn't take it. You know what? Right here. All right, so our last meeting was September the 10th. Wednesday, September 11th, I met with the RCMP investigative team who shared their findings with me prior to the media release that went out that afternoon. When I met with them and they explained it, I definitely shared my disappointment that they were unable to definitively identify a cause of the June 30th fire. And I did share with them as well that I was sure that our community members would be disappointed and potentially express even stronger emotions than myself regarding that result. That same afternoon, we hosted an introductory dinner, a meeting with representatives from the 5 surrounding bands, as well as a TNRD rep regarding the Hub Advisory Committee. It was an incredibly positive start to this working team as we move forward with the hub project. So it's very encouraging. On Thursday, September the 12th, I attended a Gold Country Zoom meeting. Gold Country will be updating their geocaching guide in the near future. And also a reminder to people to go on their website, Gold Country website, to vote for excellence in Gold Country. A number of Lytton businesses and attractions have been nominated. So the voting closes on October the 15th, and winners will be announced on November 2nd. So to vote, you can either find the link on our village Facebook page, because we have it there, or you go to the website titled exploregoldcountry.ca and click on Excellence in GC, Gold Country. So please go on and vote. Last week, I joined Councillor Toss and CIO Monbriquette at UBCM in Vancouver. It was an incredibly packed week, aside from sessions, including voting on policy resolutions. We met with Minister Murray Rankin of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation, Minister Adrian Dix from Ministry of Health, and Minister Bruce Ralston from Forestry, the Archaeology Branch. And I'm sure everybody has heard, at least I believe so, that we held a media event at UBCM that caught the attention of Premier Eby. As you know, his office had been ignoring my requests for a meeting for the past number of months. But after that event, amazingly, his office called me and we met with him that same day on Tuesday in his Vancouver office. He did listen to our concerns, particularly around the exorbitant costs for archaeology that our residents are having to pay out of pocket, and said that his staff would be working on this issue even during the writ period. So we will see if that comes to fruition. I'd also like to report that at UBCM, I put my name forward to be the small communities representative on the UBCM board and was successfully elected. Small communities, in their definition, are communities of less than 2,500 in population. Lastly, this morning, I attended the temporary fire hall barbecue and all of the organizers, and I know Councillor McCann did a lot of work with that as well, organizing it. It was a extremely successful event, as Jim mentioned earlier. So I will move it over now to Councillor McCann.
No, Councillor
Truss. Sorry.
I thought we were spicing things up this week. I got excited. Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I don't have a lot to report. You covered UBCM, which is the Union of BC Municipalities. I get a lot of questions about what that does. And so if anyone's watching, it's the municipalities around BC that come together and collaborate on resolutions to put forward to the provincial government. So I echo Mayor O'Connor's disappointment well, I don't know that you actually expressed disappointment about the response of the provincial government, but I certainly felt disappointed. And also I echo the disappointment on the RCMP report. The UBCM was extremely busy and very interesting. And I think we had a lot of opportunities to network with other communities. And I do get the sense that there are many other communities that are struggling with the issue of archaeology as well. So we're not actually in it alone. It seems like a provincial problem across the province, or challenge, I should say, with the capacity of the Ministry of Forests. And just to congratulate Mayor O'Connor, because you didn't mention it was a tie vote for the small communities. So they had to do a runoff election, which was quite exciting. And Neil Biter, and I believe that Mayor O'Connor handily won the second round. So congratulations. Well deserved. Thank you.
All right, Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor, and congratulations, yes. I attended a number of events in the last couple of weeks. September 11th, as the mayor mentioned, I went with her to the introductory gathering of the Project Advisory Committee for the Community Hub. On the 12th, we had a Pentland Park Project Task Force meeting, and we were very hopeful at that point in time that we would be having a ribbon cutting ceremony to start work on that project on October 1st. And today I heard that that's not gonna happen after all. It's gonna have to be delayed a bit because things are taking longer than expected. On the 18th, we had our Fire Smart meeting at the village office, and we're finalized the plans for today's event. And there's a couple more things coming up in November. One thing for sure that's in the planning stages now is a session where a community member volunteers their property, their home, to be a demonstration site for fire smarting. So the team comes in and they do the fire smart thing, evaluating the home and the property, and then they then go to work and clean it up. So you get a before and after. So you don't just get the report, you actually get the cleanup, which is the bonus as far as I'm concerned. Like, I could give myself a report. It's really nice to have 15 people come and clean up your yard. So that's coming forward probably before the end of October. On the 19th, I met with a resident about a possible community project, and now that's about all I can say about that, but it sounds like something that might be kind of cool later on. See if it comes together. The 23rd, I made it to coffee with the mayor. I missed the week before because I had to pick some grapes. And the 24th today was the barbecue. And just had a couple of notes that I wanted to add at the bottom of my where I went and what I did. In 2 weeks since our last meeting, 2 media events happened that involved the village. On September 11th, as you mentioned, Mayor, the RCMP released their report regarding the investigation to the 2021 fire. And then again on the 17th, you hosted your media event. And I think that both of those things kind of were highlights for us in the village to know, for one thing, that the good that came out of the RCMP report for me was that they were quite clear that there was no suspicion of arson. So it laid rest to all those conspiracy theories. And I still am hopeful that at some point in time, common sense will prevail. And I was really happy to see that you had your event at the UBCM and that you represented us so well there. Today at the celebration, we celebrated the contributions of the wildfire crews, the work of the Elephant Fire Mitigation Crew, as well as the assistance of the Falls Creek Alliance in completing the fire hall building. And I'd like to just express my own personal thanks to everyone who continues to support our community Fire Smart initiatives. And I would like to also thank the mayor, Councillor Toss, and CAO Mel Marquette for representing our village last week at UBCM. I really appreciate it. I was curious, but not able to be there. So thanks for doing it for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Michelle.
Nothing to report.
Yeah, Councillor Lightfoot.
Not a lot to report. You and Councillor McCann have filled in a lot of the details. I came over for coffee while you went down to ABC, and we had a good coffee clutch that morning. And I also attended Fire Smart on the 18th. And got in for the last few minutes of the barbecue today. And I would say that I think there was probably 80 at least. I know the door prize sheet had 75 names on it. So wow, I'm running with that one. Part of the reason I was late to the barbecue was I was attending a Zoom meeting with NDIT. This is the last meeting of this year. Their first meeting is a Zoom meeting next January. And we're going to review the criteria for a lot of the programs and review the dates. So at the end of every meeting, and I think most of the members of NDIT like this portion of the meeting the best, at the end of the business meeting, we all do a roundtable of what's happening in our communities. So there's an economic development focus, but some of us deviate into other topics. But one thing that really surprised me today was that Margot Wagner, who's our chair from the Chilcotin region, mentioned that after the landslide earlier this year, that they have identified, she talked about the difficulty coordinating the First Nations, Emergency BC, the there was a lot of lessons that she said they needed to learn on how to coordinate their efforts. But one thing she said that surprised me was there's a large crack in a rock formation above Farewell Canyon Bridge, and they anticipate that will probably slide in the not too distant future, either this fall or in the spring once there's an amount of water. So also from Ashcroft, they're having their community barbecue at the fire hall next week. And Logan Lake reported, I always find Logan Lake inspiring. Logan Lake's campground was at 80% all summer. They had a number of young people that were getting into trouble, so they invested heavily in a skate park. And so they say that it's always busy. There's always tons of kids that are, keeping themselves healthy through activity instead of. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that brings us to the end of our regular meeting, and we're going to be moving into closed meeting. So we need a motion to do so. We have the recommended motion here. Councillor Lightfoot, Seconder McCann. All those in favor? Carried. Again, thank you everyone for attending, and I'm going to turn it back over to CEO Staroshenko.
Thank you, Mayor. So that concludes the public portion of the regular council meeting of September 24th, 2024. We ask that the public and staff please remove yourself from the meeting as we go into closed session. Thank you for attending and have a wonderful night. I invite council to take a short recess while I reset the meeting to closed.
Thank you.